JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a long-running Japanese comic series created in 1987 by Hirohiko Araki, and it is one of the most absurd narratives in Japanese media. Regardless of whether you decide to read the manga serials or watch the various animated adaptations, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure comes across as highly exaggerated, unpredictable, and hilariously outlandish. But at the same time, JoJo is not about the jokes or the visual gags, it's about telling a good story. And there's a lot of artistic craftsmanship in both its stylistic design and its narrative that a lot of people could stand to learn from, myself included. In other words, I'm a fan of JoJo because of the story, which might sound like a weird statement considering that I'm talking about a series that takes place across multiple generations and alternate universes, where the main protagonist of each story always has two instances of a Jo sound somewhere in their full name, indicating that they are a legendary JoJo character. From Victorian England to World War II Europe, 1980s Asia, Egypt, Japanese suburbs, the Italian Mafia, Florida, and the Old West, JoJo, whoever that may be, is always the main character of the story. I know that people are probably really tired of seeing another video about Japanese animation on my YouTube channel, which I have been trying to cut back on, but the reason why this is such a reoccurring topic for me is because the narratives and art styles found in Japanese television animation simply tend to be more diverse than cartoons in America, and I like studying their artistic designs in order to improve upon my own work. I don't want to appropriate or recreate ideas that are inherent to Japanese culture, rather I want to be inspired by a variety of different stories to create something new. Like how Star Wars was inspired by Akira Kurosawa movies, and how JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is inspired by Hirohiko Araki's love for popular music. In fact, JoJo itself is heavily influenced by many different aspects of Western culture. Figure proportions resemble classical marble statues, the antagonists act like villains from horror films, and let's not forget all the characters that are literally named after music artists and song titles. Given that Hirohiko Araki is both the sole artist and writer of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, auteur theory is in full effect here, and since Araki is an artist who does pretty much whatever he wants, it's a good thing that he's also a genius. I mean, sure, he forgets about minor plot details all the time, but that's because Araki views each section of JoJo as its own series. And even when certain ideas might lead into plot holes, they are still in service of creating an interesting story. When the series moves from Phantom Blood to Battle Tendency, Part 2's Joseph Joestar outshines Part 1's Jonathan Joestar because it's more interesting to see a slightly pathetic comic relief character as the protagonist compared to the average goody two-shoes. And I would also argue that Jotaro Kujo from Part 3 Stardust Crusaders works better as an ensemble character in Part 4 Diamond is Unbreakable and in Part 6 Stone Ocean than as the star character of his own series. With the introduction of the Rock'em Sock'em Ghost Fighters, known as Stands, fight sequences become more than just good old-fashioned fistfights, but chess-like battles of wits and psychology, where mundane activities are given higher stakes, and characters must utilize the environment to their advantage, in addition to the specific superpower that sets each stand apart. If this seems familiar, it's because the proxy battles seen in Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Shin Megami Tensei Persona, or any animation where one figure fights on behalf of another are all an imitation of JoJo stands. And even though these imitations might offer some improvements of their own, I still think it's important to study the source itself. Not only is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure home to the most creative fight sequences in history, it is also home to the most creative artwork in Japanese illustration. While many character drawings are definitely unproportional, there is always a clear line of action in each pose, which translates perfectly into animation and allows the figure an expression of movement while creating a more interesting composition. By virtually breaking a character's spine and pushing your line of action to the extreme, you are creating a stronger drawing and you are becoming a better artist in the process. If there is any one aspect of Hirohiko Araki's work that has had the most positive influence on me, it is the JoJo pose, which also stands as the embodiment of nearly everything about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, from its confidence to its iconography, artistic merit, and most of all, its style of expression. From my own experience, watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has helped me become a better artist. So I'm hoping that when people watch JoJo in the future, they'll see it as more than just something silly, but as something meaningful. Something with artistic significance that communicates to story writers that you can be exaggerative and outlandish while still maintaining a grounded narrative. Your story can still be dramatic even if it looks silly out of context, because sometimes even the most ridiculous plot twists will carry tremendous narrative weight in the context of this situation. All you really need to keep your audience engaged is an interesting, well-executed narrative. For if JoJo's Bizarre Adventure can do all of the above and still be successful, then so can you. It's not about the comedy, it's about the expression of artwork and telling a unique story. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure isn't about the fact that it's bizarre, it's about the adventure itself. It's not just something that you can laugh at, it's something that you can learn from.